What's up everyone, welcome to another video. In this video, I will show you how to assemble the LIONSCOOL leg extension and leg curl machine, version 2.0, which has several fixes and upgrades from the first version. This machine has a cable and a cam, which provides constant resistance throughout the entire range of motion. I will assemble it step by step in this video, and do a detailed review video later after thoroughly testing it with several weeks of regular use. There's not enough room in the Rise of Iron gym to unpack the boxes and assemble the machine, so I will be assembling it in this adjacent room over here. There are two boxes. The small box weighed 51 pounds, and the large box weighed 84 pounds. And the packaging is pretty good. The boxes have straps and tape for support. The only issue was that a piece of one of the components blew through the back of the large box. But other than that, everything held up well, which was pretty good for these large heavy boxes. Now let's get to business and unpack everything. First, open the boxes. You will need a knife to cut all of the tape and straps. Then, I laid everything out. Taking a look, everything is individually packaged in protective plastic bags. And all of the components were separated with foam sheets. Everything is looking good. Next, I finished removing the individual packaging, so all of the components are ready to assemble. And we have instructions. The hardware. All of the components have a protective powder coating finish, decent welds, and some pre-assembly with some bolts, rubber handles, knobs, and things like that already installed. And pre-installed bearings and bushings are held in place with zip ties so they don't fall out and get lost. This is a solid kit, and assembly is pretty smooth. All of the hardware is clearly labeled, and the tools required for assembly are provided. However, I will be using my own driver and sockets to make assembly a lot faster and easier. But if you do use the included tools, these are real wrenches, not the cheap sheet metal stuff that you typically find in these kits. Now let's get this assembly started. Lay out the seat frame, the weight support frame, the stability foot, and the back foot plate like this. And this will be the first connection. And use the M12 bolts, washers, and nuts for all of the upcoming connections. We will be using these for a while. First, insert a bolt with a flat washer through the frame. Then, position the stability foot and install a flat washer and a nut on the other side. Note that there is a lot of play in the clearance holes. I'm only going to tighten all of the frame hardware loosely until the frame is complete. Then when it's all assembled and settled in place, I will tighten everything down. Next, it's time to connect the weight support frame, stability foot, and back foot plate. Again, insert a bolt with a washer all the way through both holes. Then, install a washer and a nut on both bolts, and tighten them almost all the way down. Next, it's time for the frame cross support, which will go right here. Then, you guessed it, run a bolt with a flat washer through 2 holes on each side, 4 holes total. Then install a flat washer and a nut onto all 4 bolts, and tighten the nuts down almost all of the way. And here's the last frame piece, the cross brace, and it goes right here. Secure it with a bolt with a flat washer on each end. The frame is complete, everything is settled, and it's sitting flat on the floor. Now it's time to go around and finish tightening everything down to lock it in place. Get everything snug and secure, but don't over tighten it and crush the tubes. Now the frame is complete and solid. We are ready to move on. Next, it's time for the seat pad support. Remove the zip tie holding the bushings in at the handle end. Then, get the 120mm long M12 bolt, 2 washers, and a nut. Insert the seat pad support here, between these 2 holes in the seat frame. Then, insert a bolt with a flat washer, and install a flat washer and a nut on the other side, and tighten the nut. And next is the middle pad frame, which will go right here. Remove the zip ties from the bushings. Remove the zip tie from the seat pad support. Get the 180mm long M12 bolt, 2 washers, and a nut. Position the middle pad frame. Then insert the bolt with a flat washer and install a flat washer and a nut on the other side, and tighten the nut. Next is the back pad frame, which will go right here. I'm coming to you from the future! The back pad frame has 2 bolts, one here and one here. I'm going to do this one first and this one second. However, it may be easier to lay this flat and do this one first and this one second. Now I'm leaving the future and going back to the tutorial. Remove the zip tie holding the bearings in place. Get a short pivot rod, 2 plastic washers, 2 30mm washers, and 2 M10 bolts. And heads up, all of these plastic washers have a plastic film that needs to be removed. Insert the back pad frame inside the clevis on the seat frame. Place a plastic washer in between on both sides, and insert the pivot rod all the way through. Then install a bolt with a flat washer on each end, and tighten them down all the way. Next is connecting the back pad frame to the middle pad frame. Remove the zip ties running through all of the bushings, 1 place on the back pad frame and 2 places on the middle pad frame. Get the last M12 bolt, the last 2 M12 flat washers, and the last M12 nut. Align the frames so the back pad frame is underneath the middle pad frame. Then install the bolts with a flat washer all the way through. Install a flat washer and a nut on the other end, and tighten it down. Then get the adjustable back pad tube. There are holes on one side and a slot on the other side. The holes go up. Insert it into the back pad frame. Then get 1 M8 bolt and install it here underneath the back pad frame. It goes into that slot to trap the adjustable tube. Next up is the handlebar. There are 2 mounting holes. Get the 2 M10 bolts, 4 flat washers, and 2 M10 nuts. Insert the bolts with a flat washer all the way through, and a flat washer and a nut on the back side. 2 places, 1 above the bar and 1 below the bar. Then tighten them down. Now the seat framework is complete, and it's starting to look like a leg machine. It's time to assemble the weight components. Remove the zip tie from the pull pin end of the movement arm and from the cam. They will be installed right here in this clevis on the weight supports frame. Get the long clevis rod, 3 plastic washers, 2 10mm washers, 2 50mm washers, and 2 M10 bolts. Install 1 plastic washer on the inside, then the movement arm with the handle up, then 1 plastic washer on the inside, then a plastic washer on the outside. Then bring in the cam with the movement arm on top of the stop pin. Slide the cam onto the pivot arm and install a flat washer and a 50mm washer onto the bolt and thread it into the end of the pivot rod. Then do the same thing on the other side. Bolt, washer, washer, thread it in, and tighten it down. Next is the swivel foam roll tube, which goes right here. Get the 38mm washer, a 10mm washer, and an M10 bolt. Remove the zip tie through the bearings on the movement arm, and insert the swivel foam roll tube all the way through. Then equip the flat washer and the 38mm washer onto the bolt, and thread it in. And tighten it all the way down. And it should freely rotate like this. Now we're getting to the end. We just have the weight holder and the seat pads. The weight holder connects here at this clevis. Get the last pivot rod, the last 2 30mm washers, the last 2 plastic washers, and 2 M10 bolts. Remove the zip tie. Then insert the pivot rod through the clevis, a plastic washer, the weight holder, a plastic washer, and through the clevis. Then a bolt with a flat washer threaded into each end, and tighten it up. And the weight holder is connected to the frame. Next, the weight horn gets connected to the end of the weight holder. Just slide it in, and get the last M10 flat washer and bolt. Then remove the lock washer from the bolt because it's not long enough with the washer installed. Drop on the flat washer, insert the bolt, and tighten it down. Now it's time for the pads. Middle pad, seat pad, and back pad. The last hardware in the kit is a bunch of M8 bolts and flat washers. Use them to install all of the pads. And the very last item is the cable, which runs from here, around this pulley, to the cam. Run the eyelet end of the cable over the pulley. Remove the existing bolts from the cam clevis, and reinstall the bolts with a flat washer through the cable eyelet with a flat washer and the nut on the back side, and tighten it down. Bring the other end of the cable to this post. Remove the existing bolts and washers. Install the end of the cable with the short side facing towards the machine, and reinstall the bolts and flat washers. Tighten or loosen this screw to tension the cable. Then tighten this jam nut to lock it in place. And the very last setup adjustment is the pull pin for locking the seat in the up or down position. In the up position, it locks into this slot, no problem. But in the down position, the pull pin was not quite lining up with the slot in the frame. However, there's an adjustment pad underneath the middle pad frame. Adjust it as needed for the pull pin to go into the slot, and you are all set. And that completes the assembly. I will do a thorough review video after I put it through its paces with several weeks of regular use. But I'll tell you right now that I think it was a great purchase, and I'm looking forward to having it in the home gym. I hope you found this helpful. Have a great day, and I'll see you in the next video.